Admin without the grind and work smart. 10 AI prompts to clear your backlog. Hey, you did not start your business to spend afternoons chasing invoices, formatting reports, scheduling calls, and rewriting the same email for the fourth time this month. You started it because you want to follow your passion, be creative, build something new and cool, to make your mark and leave a small dent in the universe. But in order for all of that to happen, you do need to do your admin. But what if AI could take most of that off your plate? Not by doing your job, but by handling the parts that were never really yours to begin with. By the end of this episode, you will have 3 practical ways to cut your admin time this week and a free AI prompt kit you can use right away. Welcome back to OmniAMEA Compass. I'm Susan Platt, and this is Season 3, Build Smart with AI. And for the record, we're recording in mid-May 2026. We're now on episode 4 of this season, and today we're focusing on admin, the emails, the scheduling, the invoices, the follow-ups, the notes sitting in your folders that never become anything actionable. It's an invisible operational layer that can drain your time and energy every single week. Well, I'm here to tell you that most entrepreneurs are not exhausted by the core of their work. They're exhausted by everything surrounding it. And this is where AI can genuinely help. Not by replacing your judgment and not by replacing your voice, but by taking repetitive mechanical work off your plate so your energy goes where it matters most. Before we dive in, I should mention that if you're watching me on your YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the visual takeaways for each section that I cover. If you're listening audio only, I'll talk you through these, but you may benefit from heading over to YouTube to see how the typed prompts look. I'll put the link to our YouTube channel in the show notes, or you can find it with the search terms OmniAMEA Compass Podcast. You'll also be able to download the Work Smart AI prompt kit from the website. So, let's get started. Waypoint 1, the admin tasks that drain you most and why. So let me ask you something. When you think about the admin side of your business, what comes up first? For most of the entrepreneurs I speak with, the answers fall into a few familiar categories, like emails, scheduling, invoicing, writing things that feel repetitive, proposals, follow-ups, onboarding documents, FAQs, research that never quite ends, and meeting notes that sit in a folder and never become anything useful. The small jobs that each feel manageable on their own, but stacked together can swallow a day before you've even noticed. What's interesting about these tasks is that they're not difficult, they're not complex. They don't require your expertise, but what they do require is your attention, your time, your mental energy. And that is exactly the problem. There's a concept in cognitive science called decision fatigue, and it's the idea that the quality of our decisions deteriorates the more choices we make in a given period. The same mechanism applies to low-stakes repetitive tasks. Every email you draft from scratch, every piece of information you manually move from one place to another, every document you recreate instead of templating. All of this costs mental energy, and mental energy is finite. It's not a productivity problem, it's an allocation problem. And honestly, this became very real for me during a period where I was juggling an enormous amount of operational and administrative complexity when I first left my corporate role and I started OmniAMEA. And what I realized during that time was that the real danger wasn't the volume of work itself. It was the cognitive fragmentation, the constant switching between strategic thinking and repetitive operational tasks. So that fragmentation is expensive, not just in time, but in clarity and in energy. And that is exactly where thoughtful AI use can make a meaningful difference. Because you are the most valuable asset in your business, the gold goose, if you will. Your thinking, your relationships, your creative capacity, your judgment, those things cannot be automated. But a lot of what surrounds them can be. And a note for listeners who have been here since Season 1, if you were with us back in Episode 7, the Business Backbone Starter Kit, some of this will sound familiar. In that episode, we talked about admin as the invisible architecture and the scaffolding that holds your work up even when life gets difficult. We introduced the 9 essentials: a real business email, basic invoicing, a file structure, a password manager, a notes hub, legal basics, and a reusable About Me document, a business bank account, and a simple budget. That episode was about getting the foundation in place. And today's episode is what comes next once the foundation exists. How does AI change the cost of maintaining it? Here's what I noticed since I recorded that episode about a year ago. The 9 essentials are still the right starting point. The structure is sound. What we're talking about here, though, with the recent advances in AI, is the energy it takes to operate within that structure. The invoicing that used to take 40 minutes can now take 10 or less. The client update used to dread writing drafts itself in 2s. The meeting notes that used to sit unprocessed in a folder for days get turned into action items before you've even made your next coffee. So the backbone is the same. AI just makes it lighter to carry. And there's one thing we said in episode 7 that still holds, perhaps more than ever today. Structure gives your nervous system something to rest on. When your systems are running, your brain is free. That has not changed. What AI does is lower the cost of keeping those systems running. And before anyone starts worrying, this is not about cutting corners. It's about being honest about where your energy really belongs. Think about it this way. If you had an extremely capable assistant, someone organized, reliable, fast, and available at any hour, you would not have been sit in the corner while you personally typed out every invoice, transcribed every meeting, and researched every question that crossed your desk. You would direct them, give them the tasks, review the output, take what was useful, and move on. That is the relationship this episode is asking you to build with AI. Intentional, structured use of a tool that is genuinely very good at the category of work that drains you the most. So here are the 4 categories we're going to focus on today. Category 1 is written communication, including email drafts, follow-ups, and standard business correspondence. Document creation and formatting, proposals, briefs, templates, and summaries, research and information synthesis, gathering, organizing, and making sense of information, and finally, scheduling, planning, and workflow, the logistical layer of running a business. Each of these is a legitimate use of AI, and each of them has a specific approach that works better than simply typing a request and hoping for the best. That is what the next 2 waypoints are going to give you. So waypoint 1, action steps. Your admin audit. This week, I want you to do one thing, a time audit on your admin. Not complicated, not a spreadsheet unless you love spreadsheets. Just keep a running note for 7 days. A phone note is fine of every task you do that is not your core work. Not strategy, not client delivery, not the things only you can do, like the other stuff. At the end of the 7 days, look at the list and ask, which of these is repetitive? Which of these follows a pattern? Which of these do I do over and over again in slightly different forms? Those are your AI opportunities. Waypoint 2, what admin AI can do and how to use it well. Now let's get specific. I want to take each of these 4 categories and show you what AI can do with them, with practical examples, not theory. So in the written communications category, this is where most people start, and for a good reason. AI tools are genuinely excellent at helping with written communication. Not because they write better than you, they don't, and you should never let them replace your voice, but because they handle the structural, formulaic parts of correspondence very efficiently. Think about the emails you write more than once, the follow-up after a discovery call, or the response to a pricing inquiry. Maybe the check-in with a client at week 3 of a project, or a polite but clear decline of something that is not a sale. These emails have a structure. They have a purpose, and they are not where your creativity or your expertise lives. They are the necessary glue between your real work and the people it serves. Here is how to work with AI on this level. Start by describing the context in specific, not just write me a follow-up email. That will give you something very generic that sounds like no one in particular. Instead, tell the AI who you are, who you're writing to, what happened in your last interaction, what you want to achieve with this email, and what tone fits the relationship. Give it the details that makes the difference, and then review what it produces. Adjust the parts that don't sound like you. Keep the structure if it works, and change the language where it's too formal, too casual, or simply just not yours. What you end up with is a first draft in 2 minutes instead of 20, and one that refines into your actual voice rather than building from a blank page every time. Over time, the emails you refine become your templates. You save them. You build a small library of correspondence that you can pull from, adapt, and send without starting from scratch. And so here's your first visual takeaway. We have the email prompt for written communication. And here's your visual prompt. Instead of write me a follow-up email, try, I had a discovery call yesterday with a startup founder. Goal, move her to a paid session. Tone, warm, no pressure, confident, draft under 150 words. Document creation and formatting. This is the second category, and it includes anything that follows a predictable structure. Proposals, project briefs, onboarding documents, service guides, workshop summaries, FAQ pages, and so on. AI handles structure extremely well. Give it the parameters, what the document is for, who it's for, what it needs to include, and it will produce a coherent framework that you then fill with your own thinking and expertise. A practical example. If you regularly send proposals to potential clients, you likely include similar elements every time. An overview of the work, a statement of what's included and what's not, timelines, investments, your terms. The only thing that changes client to client is the specific context. Build the framework with AI once, save it, and use it as a starting template for every new proposal. The AI does not write the proposal, you do. But it builds the container so you are not inventing the wheel each time you sit down to write one. The same applies to meeting notes. If you record your calls on Riverside or use a transcription tool, AI can turn a transcript into a structured summary. Key points, decision made, next step, action items. That is not cutting corners. It is making your meetings useful instead of letting them disappear into a folder. Our visual takeaway here, document prompt proposals. Instead of write me a proposal for a new client, try create a proposal framework for a 3-month consulting engagement. Include scope, deliverables per month, investment options, payment terms, next steps. In squared brackets, always include client-specific details. Research and information synthesis. This is a third category, and it is one where AI genuinely saves significant time, if you know how to use it. Research without AI often looks like this. You open 12 tabs, read 6 of them, get distracted by 2, forget what you were looking for, and end up with a half-informed picture of something you needed to understand clearly an hour ago. AI can compress that process significantly, not by doing the research for you in a way that removes your judgment, but by helping you gather, organize, and make sense of information faster. Here are a few specific uses. AI to explain a concept you need to understand at the level you need it explained. Ask it to compare options when you are making a decision. Ask it to summarize a long document, a report, or a set of notes into the key points that matter for your specific question. The important thing here is to be precise about what you need. Not tell me about Swiss VAT because that gives you a lot of information and not much focus. But if you say, I'm a sole proprietor in Switzerland and I earn 70,000 a year, explain whether I need to register for VAT and what my obligations are, gives you something you can actually use. So, precision in, clarity out. That is always the principle. And when you are using AI for research, verify what matters. AI tools can make errors, especially on specific regulatory or legal questions. Use them to get oriented, to understand the landscape, to draft the questions. You will then confirm with a professional or an official source. They are a starting point, not a final authority. Visual example, the research prompt Swiss VAT. Instead of tell me about Swiss VAT, try I'm a sole proprietorship in Switzerland, earning around 70,000 per year. Explain whether I need to register for VAT and what triggers mandatory registration. Keep it practical, not legal. Final category, scheduling, planning, and workflow. The fourth category is the one that often gets overlooked, but it is where a lot of invisible time goes. Planning your week, thinking through the steps of a project, working out what order to do things in, figuring out what you forgot to include in your launch timeline, writing out a process so that future you or someone helping you knows how to do something. AI is a very useful thinking partner for all of this. You can describe a project to an AI tool and ask it to map out the logical sequence of steps. You can share a goal and ask it to work backwards from the deadline. You can describe how you currently do something and ask it to help you identify the gaps. the redundancies, or the parts that could be simplified. This is not the AI making decisions for you. It is the AI doing what a good thought partner does. You externalize the thing in your head so you can see it clearly and work with it. For entrepreneurs working alone, that kind of thinking support is genuinely valuable. It replaces some of the function that a team meeting or a colleague brainstorm would serve in a larger organization. So, our visual takeaway examples is the planning prompt, launch timeline. Instead of help me plan my course launch, try I'm launching a course on October 5th. And today is May 15th. The course is developed, plan the marketing runway, email sequence, social content, and pre-launch activities. Work backwards from the launch date with phased milestones. Waypoint 2, actionable steps. Pick one item from the list you made during Waypoint 1 and try using AI with it this week. Choose something low stakes, like a draft email, a document structure, a research question. And before you write the prompt, take 30 seconds to think about what you need to give the AI for it to produce something useful. Who's this for? What is the goal? What does good look like? That 30 seconds of intention makes the difference between a prompt that wastes your time and one that saves it. Before we move into Waypoint 3, I want to mention something I put together specifically for this episode. Everything we have just covered, namely the 4 admin categories and the practical approaches for each one, I have turned into a downloadable prompt kit called WorkSmart. 10 ready-to-use prompts for the admin tasks that eat into your week most. Structuring your week, turning meeting notes into action items, writing payment reminders or drafting client updates, running your monthly business reflection, and some more. So each prompt is written with fill-in-the-bracket instructions so you can use it immediately. Use prompt 1 to set up your week. Use prompt 3 after your next call to turn your notes into action items in under 5 minutes. People who work through the kit will likely get back 2 or 3 hours of admin time in the first 2 or 3 weeks alone. The link is in the show notes. It's free, it's practical, it's designed to be used right away, not bookmarked and forgotten. Right. Big point 3. Building an AI-supported admin rhythm. The risk with everything we have covered in Waypoint 2 is that you try a few things, then get a few good results, and then drift back to your old patterns because you don't have a structure for when and how you use these tools. That is normal, and it is solvable. What I want to suggest is very simple. A weekly admin rhythm that integrates AI as a standard part of how you run your business, not as an occasional experiment, but like as a consistent habit. I think of it as having 3 layers. The first layer is daily. This is your communication and correspondence, emails, follow-ups, short documents. And this is where AI is most seamlessly useful, not as a project, but just as part of how you work. You describe what you need, you review and refine, and you send. It becomes as unremarkable as using a spell checker. The second layer is weekly. This is your planning, your summaries, your light documentation. At the beginning or end of each week, you use AI to help you organize what is ahead or synthesize what happened. You turn your meeting notes into useful records. You map out the coming days. You check whether your projects are on track. This is your structured pause, the moment you step out of the doing and into the managing. The third layer is project by project. When you are launching something, creating something, or onboarding a new client or working through a decision, this is when you bring AI in as a more deliberate thinking and building partner. This is where it can save the most time in the preparation phase, where you're building frameworks, drafts, structures, and plans that would otherwise take far longer without support. Here, in our visual takeaway, is what it looks like in practice. Monday morning, run the structure week prompt. It's prompt 1. After every call, run the meeting notes, action items, prompt 3. Friday, 20 minutes with your weekly layer, review, record, send. Start of any new project, use AI to map the sequence before you begin. These 3 layers do not require new tools for most of you. They require a new habit of use with the tools you already have. For the daily layer, the primary AI assistant, whatever that is for you, if it's ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, this is enough. For the weekly layer, a combination of your AI tool and your existing planning system works well. For the project layer, the more context you give, the better the output. If you listen to episode 7 in season 1, you will recognize the shape of this. In that episode, we introduced the idea of a weekly compass check, a 20 to 30-minute weekly ritual to glance at your money, scan your tasks, check your calendar, and reconnect with where you are. That concept has not changed since then. What AI adds to it is speed and structure. The tasks that might have made a compass check feel heavy to you, like reviewing notes from the week, processing your inbox backlog, sketching out the days ahead, now take a fraction of that time. And the ritual stays human. The admin inside it gets lighter. The next level, from prompts to scheduled workflows. There's a step beyond manual prompting that is worth naming, even if you're not ready for it yet. Right now, the Work Smart prompts work like this. You decide to use one, you open your AI tool, you paste the prompt, you fill in the brackets, and you review the result. That is already a significant upgrade on doing the task from scratch. But there's the further step where the prompt runs itself. This is what an AI workflow or an agent does. Instead of you deciding to run prompt 1 every Monday morning, a scheduled workflow fires it automatically, draws on your standing task list, and delivers the output to your inbox before you have opened your laptop. You arrive at your week plan, not the blank page. You review, you adjust, and you act. The decision to use the tool has already been made for you by the system you set up once. Not all 10 prompts suit this approach. Some require live human input every time, and that is fine. They are still enormously useful as a manual tool. But several of them are strong candidates for automation, and knowing which ones changes how you think about building your admin rhythm. So here's your AI-assisted admin schedule, visual takeaway, and remember that some of these prompts can eventually run themselves. Setting up your first scheduled workflow takes not long. The payoff is that it runs every week without you thinking about it again. I will be walking through exactly how you can do this step by step, tool by tool, in a dedicated mini lesson further on. So if that is something you want to be notified about, the link to our mailing list is in the show notes. And you'll be the first to hear when that lesson is available. One practical note on context, AI tools have no memory between sessions unless you build it in. So that means if you want your AI to know your evergreen information like that, for example, you're a Swiss-based entrepreneur, that your audience is expat founders, that your voice is warm, direct, and human, you will have to tell it. You can do that every time or at the start of each session if you're doing shorter work. But you can also build a short briefing paragraph for yourself, something you can save into your AI's core memory so you don't have to paste at the start of any AI session. Name your business, your audience, your tone, the context of your task. That setup usually saves you multiple rounds of correction of frustrating repetition of what you want to achieve. Waypoint 3, actionable steps. Build your About Me briefing paragraph this week. A short, clear description of who you are, what your business does, who you serve, and how you like to communicate. Save it somewhere accessible. Save it into your AI's core memory. And then decide which of the 3 layers, daily, weekly, or project, is the one you want to build the habit around first. Start there, just one, let it become unremarkable, and then add the next. Takeaway and close. We started today with a reframe. Admin is not the enemy of good work. It is the infrastructure that good work runs on. And for a long time, that infrastructure cost entrepreneurs something they couldn't afford to keep spending. Time, energy, and the mental bandwidth that belongs to the things only they can do. AI changes the economics of that, not by removing the admin and not by making it glamorous, but by taking on the mechanical, repetitive, pattern-following parts and doing them well enough that you can focus on what you are building. What we covered today, Waypoint 1, we named the real cost of admin, not the tasks themselves, but the energy they consume when they are not handled well. And we gave you a simple audit to identify where your opportunities are. In Waypoint 2, we worked through 4 specific categories: written communication, document creation, research, and planning, with practical approaches for each one. And in Waypoint 3, we built a rhythm, daily, weekly, and project by project, A structure for making AI a consistent part of how you run your business rather than a tool you remember occasionally and forget the rest of the time. The invitation for this week is small and specific. Try one thing. Build your briefing paragraph. Run one task through AI that you would normally have done alone. See what it produces. See what it saves. And notice, what do you do with the time you get back? What do you create? What do you finally have space to think about? What conversations become possible again? So, 2 things to do this week. Try one prompt today. Pick any task from your audit list and run it through your AI tool. Download WorkSmart from the show notes and use prompt 1 on Monday morning. See what you get back. Then ask, what will I do with that time? Because ultimately, this isn't really about AI, is it? It's about reclaiming your attention for the work only you can do. Next week, we are moving into episode 5, and we're going into territory that I find genuinely fascinating: confidence in the age of AI. What makes you irreplaceable? Not as a concept, but as something you can identify and protect. I think you're going to find that very useful. So, until then, take care of your energy. That is your most valuable business asset. And as always, all that is yours, you always carry with you.